Alright, so we're finishing up on our bike build here, and if you watched one of the other videos, I'm at the point where I was talking about on the wall about getting it running and then getting it running right. So right now we got to get it running, and then we can figure out how to get it running right. So we'll set up here and get a little bit closer and take these carburetors off. I'll show how to go through it and then the little tricks to get them back on the boots once we reinstall. But not much needed, just need something to catch the fuel coming out of the bowls. And so little hoses and some bottles, need a 10mm, and my cool little free Harbor Freight thing that has big and little on both ends, so that's always handy for doing carburetors. And then something to squeeze the clamps with, and that should be about it. Alright, so we're zoomed in a little bit closer, and we'll get a little closer once we start doing the screws. But as you can see for this build, my gas tank's up high, so I can actually get the carburetors off without taking the gas tank off this one. But normally, you'd have to take the seat off if you're a stock bike, and then you'd have to take the tank off, and then that would give you access. There's also a wiring harness. My wiring harness goes right up here and goes up under, but there's normally a wiring harness that runs right between the two, and that can kind of get in the way. But all you have to do is just duct the carburetors underneath it, and it's not too hard to do. So let's get set up here, and first thing I want to do is drain the bowls. So I've taken these off so many times, I don't know how long it takes to take one off. So I'm going to time myself, and I'm going to see just how long it takes. So we'll get started right now, and then we'll see just how long it takes to take these carburetors off. I'll clean them up, and then we'll time how long it takes to put it back on. So step one, we got to get them drained. So while it's draining, we can do some other things. So let's get us some lines on these bowls. Alright, so while they're draining, we can start working on taking things apart. Alright, so that is pretty much everything on this side. The only other thing we're going to loosen up is the boot right here. Let's get the boot loosened up. We'll be ready here in a minute to take the carb. So one thing, while you're loosening, that screw is going to have to come off the boot. And so just tip that guy up out of the way. That way you got good access. So let's run around here to the other side, and we'll take the other parts off. Alright, so now we're over on this side. We got to do the same thing. There we go. So then that guy comes up. Tilt him up out of the way. There we go. And this cable needs to come down a little bit, so we'll have some room. Then on the back side, we got the same thing. You got your petcock vacuum tube coming to the back side, so pull him loose. And then over on this side, there's these two little breather tubes. So right up in here is where those two connect. All you got to do is squeeze the clamp. This clamp's already come down. It's normally supposed to be up there. So these tubes come off. They're kind of tight on there too. There we go. So we got those two tubes off. Nothing in the back. Everything's off. So now carburetors are free other than taking the boots loose. And all I got to do is loosen up the clamp. And then we'll take the clamp and push it up out of the way. So then we can get to the bolts. So let's do a little time check. So we are 9 minutes into it. So not too bad so far. Okay, so all of that stuff's easy. It varies a little bit from bike to bike. but it's all pretty easy. So here's where the fun comes in, is how to get these carburetors out of here with the boots. So I can tell you right now, if you try to just pop the carburetors off the boots and pull them out, they're not going to come out. So what we got to do is right inside of here, this one has a slot in it, and so all we want to do is loosen this one. So start with this front one, and you can get a wrench on it pretty easy. So either the closed end or you can use the open end, but all you want to do is loosen it up a little so that boot can slide out. Get a couple turns out here. Maybe a turn, turn and a half. Not much. The more you loosen it, the more you're going to have to tighten it later. You just want it loose enough that maybe like that little washer will move. So once you get it loose enough, there we go. So that ought to be good. So we're going to start with that one. We're not going to do anything to the rear boot yet because it's a little too hard to get to. And so let's go over to this side. So now what we want to do is take this one off right here. Get my flashlight in here. There we go. So now we could move to the back one, back here. So we could move back here and try to remove that one, but this carburetor's kind of in the way and there's some stuff back there. So you could do it, but it's a little bit easier just to drop the carburetor at this point. So now what we want to do with that front boot loose is we want to take the carburetor off the boot. And so we're going to grab the boot and we're going to separate the carburetor. Like that right there. So now we can slide the boot out because see, it had a little groove right there that allowed us to take it out without taking that bolt loose up there. Alright, so now the carburetor's loose, we can slide it forward, drop it down a little bit, and now we got better access to that back bolt that we do the very same thing for. We just want to loosen that bolt up right in there, and now you can get to it a lot better with a wrench. So now we can get on it back here. And loosen him up. Alright, so we got him loose. We don't want to take it out, we just want to loosen it up. Now let's scoot around to the other side. Around here, and we're going to take the bottom bolt loose. So right down here, we'll take that one loose. There we go. Now we got him out. The other side is loose. So now we can slide the carburetor up out of the way. Take that boot out. So then that boot comes off. And so now we don't have any boots in there. And we should be able to get all of our cables out of the way. Slide the carburetors out. So there we go. Not too bad at all. Let's see what our time says on how long it took us. And we were right at 13 minutes. So 13 minutes to pull the carburetors. And now we can do a little cleaning up on the carburetors and see what they look like. So we'll be back here in just a little bit and we'll reinstall these carburetors. Alright, so we're ready to go on a reinstall. And so for our boots, I'm not a big fan of these O-rings right here because they get old and they get squishy and they leak. So I prefer the old school method of using this felt pepper stuff. And so what I'm going to do is replace that O-ring with some felt material. so we can get rid of that little guy. So now all we got to do is make it stick to it. So get us some spray adhesive, and we just want to spray the little guy. And you could also spray the boot if you wanted to, but I don't like getting it all over the place, so I just spray it on my finger. And I just rub a little bit on the surface. Because when we go for install, there'd be no way that those two pieces can be separate. And then we just let them dry and we stick them together. There we go. So now we got the face gasket to replace our O-ring. And then all you want to do is just make sure you don't have any overhangs in the inside. So we're going to come in here and trim back right on the inside right there. And there we go. Alright, so now we're ready for our install. For the install, we just go into reverse order. So our little screw is still sitting in there. Back it up just a little more. Think you might need it. And so we just want to take our carburetors and we set our carbs in there. Alright, so we've got a carburetor set. Now we start with the rear boot. And we're going to take the rear boot. We're going to set it up on its screw. Now we'll just take our screw and put a screw back in. You gotta make sure that you get that guy oriented in the right way before you click it up into the boot. And we just tighten the rear all the way down. And then we can move around to the other side. There we go. Let's check the tightness on the other side. Alright, so now we got the rear boot and the carburetor sitting in there. So now we can do the front. So all we want to do is go ahead and pick the carburetor up out of the way. We're going to do the very same thing. We're going to slip the front boot in. Just get the washer moved back. Put the boot in. Like that right there. Now this is where the trick comes in. You think, okay, I need to go ahead and bolt it in. Well, you don't want to bolt that one in yet until you pop the carburetors in. And so what we're going to do right now, this is the one thing that makes it either easy or hard, is we got the boot in this bolt over here. So now what we want to do is slip the rear into the boot. And then you want to take the front and raise that boot up and wiggle it in. So then once you get it wiggled in, then you can drop the boot down to the right spot. And then you'll be able to bolt it in. And we'll swing around to the other side. And there we go. Carburetors are back on. So now all we got to do is put all the little things back on. The pipes and the cables and the fuel lines and the boots. And we'll be ready to fire it up and try it again. All right, so the carbs are back on. Everything's all put back together. I believe I got it all done. So let me turn my fuel back on. And probably put it on reserve because I don't have a lot of gas in it. All right, so here's the test. Let's see if she's gonna fire up on 2 cylinders and play nice, or am I gonna have to take the thing back to park and do this all over again? Here we go. All right, so we are running now. So we have checked off the get it running part. Now we just got to get it running right, which comes into adjusting the air fuel, taking it for some test runs and just see what it'll do. Well, all right, there we go. There's a quick and easy how to take the carburetor off, and looks like we had good results. Well, alrighty. Well, thanks for watching.